it.
So, Jeff, it's fantastic to talk to you.
Hey, Michael, how are you, man?
I'm fantastic. Before we started recording, we were talking a little bit about AI, and obviously that's the topic on top of everybody's mind. And clearly, a lot of stuff is going to change. Already, it started to. We're sort of. I'll go off on a complete tangent that has nothing to do with IT. I was in New York Monday for a meeting, and I took advantage of flying in early and went to Museum of Modern Art. And there's an exhibit at Museum of Modern Art right now with Frederick Douglass. And one of the things that he did and was really well known for is he took advantage of photography because he was using images of him to capture himself to make real to people who wouldn't have otherwise seen what it was really like to be a Black man. So he was taking this real image of a human being to make it real to people. Not even 100 years later, well, 150 years later, we're in a place where photographs are no longer even real thanks to AI. Images no longer mean anything anymore. So AI has totally converted the space that we used to be in, where we knew what things were, to a space where we don't know what things are anymore. And I mean, that's a little bit of a meta topic that maybe we don't want to spend a whole ton of time on, but It made me realize it just changes. Just AI has changed so many things from, those
And
kinds
how
of.
long? How long? That's what's even more amazing.
Yeah.
So yes, generative AI and all this crazy capabilities,
Yep.
the crazy capabilities. And we'll get into discussion about maybe the difference between the capabilities, which I think are endless, and the integrations, which are our true challenges.
Mhm.
How do we get connected to and leverage and use this?
Yep.
And now you're talking really about, hey, this kind of changes the game.
It does.
Makes maybe mediums, creative mediums, look rather clandestine, or
Exactly.
or old and outdated. Think of what we can do with so much ease, and I really think we're going to have a new kind of brand or new niches of how this becomes still art worthy. And there will be the resurgence of analog, just like people now going crazy for vinyl, right? Going crazy for vinyl and that warmth and that imperfection that still has the heart and soul of the human in it.
Absolutely.
Anyway, that's the story, right? But yeah, there's a lot to scratch at there, man.
Yeah, I know. So I don't want to go too far down that path, but I mean, obviously, it's the buzzword. It's everything from what's happening in our culture to what's happening in our industry, on what you and I do for a living on a day-to-day basis, working in IT organizations and trying to make stuff work, or trying to make stuff better, or trying to make progress. And AI has been around for a long time in our space. We've been doing a lot with AI. Everything from predictive placement of storage blocks to predictive thresholds for monitoring. All that stuff's been around for a long time. But Gen AI is different because it doesn't give you this beautiful, perfect output for a consistent input. Right. So from your perspective, what are you seeing actually happen with generative AI that's useful for an IT organization? Or this useful for somebody who's trying to help an IT or help a business be successful with IT? Yeah.
So common phrase I'll bring up to people: is the juice worth the squeeze? Right? Absolutely. I heard that somewhere, and it resonates with me. We've already said in this segment, it's not a capabilities problem. Right? The possibilities are really astounding. Just looking today on Hugging Face, and it's already up over 800,000 models to do all sorts of different things. So generative AI is one thing, right? The next step, pre-trained transformers, GPTs, right? And BERT models and all these other models to do all sorts of things. Amazing capabilities. Wow, what a Lego set of possibility. And I'm a pretty imaginative fellow, a creative of sorts, having the Sousa band and, doing the whole rock star thing before, where we met back in the day at IBM, before that, doing the rock star thing, crazy long hair and stuff. But the generative part, this has been modeled and trained from a corpus of data from us. And you kind of brought up the point, it does take a turn. does have imperfections of its own, just like we do. So I think what I want to maintain with the use of AI is the human aspect of it, because certainly that will, again, if we're going to have a retro moment, hey, I'm talking to a real person, crazy. I think the biggest juice for the squeeze, and maybe we'll start to pick up on this, is how you use AI inside your business, privately, how you can take your own corpus of data and do things like RAG. People want to establish a whole new set of 3-letter acronyms. So here we go. Buckle up. RAG, right? This is the ability to retrieve. So it's retrieval augmented. It's enhancing this generative part. So retrieval augmented generation. It's talking with your own data. I think there is a huge benefit for businesses to get more efficient. And if you want to talk about, is it worth the squeeze? Look at, for example, do you have a quarterly report that a lot of people are spending a lot of time sourcing data, putting it into formats and everything? Have you been able to generate them previous quarters? Oh, yes, we've been doing this for, years. Great. Right. Grab those as examples, build that into something that will save everybody a whole lot of time. Go get the data, go make the report. We know what it's supposed to look like. We've shown you. And AI just goes, blah, here you are. If that saves 10 people, salary, benefits, blah, 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 the grind of the time and everything else, absolutely worth the squeeze to run that in a process. And these kind of efficiencies that AI can make simple, especially large language models, right? That are using language as the interface, as the input, the output. These are where we can get efficiencies, and we'll start to see amazing efficiency gains inside a business, making these businesses easier to do business with. So I think that's where the big juice is. The big companies, they've been scratching at this a while, and they're probably buying as well as building their own stuff. But what about the underserved, right? What about the medium and the small business? You serve that community. Absolutely. What are you hearing from your customers about, hey, we'd like to do AI, but we'd like to keep it private. We'd like to secure it and have it be provable. I'd like to be able to audit that and show, yeah, our stuff is not going out to some OpenAI or Google or Azure or whatever. I know we all partner with all of them, but keeping stuff inside and being able to find some efficiencies. Again, I think that's the focus. But what are you hearing, man?
I mean, I think that really is the challenge, especially for businesses that aren't huge. I actually heard a podcast the other day with the CIO from Goldman Sachs. So they've got more than a little bit of money to spend on generative AI, right? And so you're playing around annual reports is a great example. What do? You take an analyst call, you feed it into generative AI, and then you ask it, well, what did this analyst have to say about labor markets? And all of a sudden you've got this consolidated thing that gives you a tremendous amount of value, right? Built off of a corpus. Quick. Yeah, absolutely. Built off of a corpus of stuff that's been, annual reports that have been publicly available, the Qs and Ks and whatever else that have been around for decades that give it some real meat. But they don't let the stuff that they want to know themselves. They're RAG, they're doing inside of their own four walls. And what are they doing? They're building their own gigantic data center, competing with all of the other hyperscalers for GPUs and so on to be able to give themselves the sense of security that data is not going outside. Our clients can't do that.
Right. Or they've negotiated that, right?
Yes.
Like if they're like, hey, we're not going to buy an H100. It's $36,000, blah, blah, blah. Right. Right. You can always, again, go ahead and go to a hyperscaler. They've already racked and stacked it. But then your governance model changes a little bit, right? It's the data sovereignty and all those rules. Compliance is also T's and C's with that hyperscaler, right? And if that's okay, and you're legal, yeah, so everything's cool, handshake, haha, cool, and you're good with that, well, then you can still set up your boundaries within that availability zone or whatever. But yeah, things to think about governance too, right?
Absolutely. And especially for small companies, because that's usually governance is expensive. As soon as I start doing any kind of data classification, this is what everybody that we're talking to is really struggling with is I want to take advantage of AI. I like retrieval augmented generation, like these things. How do I know what data I want to put in there? I actually had my boss said that's to be cool, but what if I throw somebody's, if I hoover up all of my internal data and something's a performance improvement plan, how do I know that Steve in accounting doesn't come up with something that all of a sudden lets him know that Bob in sales is on a performance improvement plan because some piece of the data that was hiding in there showed up as part of an answer.
Right,
So,
right. Well, there are interesting session-based, and other things. I mean, like there's a lot to scratch at there too. What do the services around AI? People want to upskill. People want to learn the new Google foo, right?
right,
All have a, hey, look, I can get the best 10 links back on this search engine than anybody, right? Well, we've all learned how to get better results out of Google, despite the SEO, despite all of the, the best wishes of the strongest AdWord purchasers on the planet, right?
exactly.
We assume that we're getting the pure answers we're looking for. Well, I think a little bit of that is what we've always hoped, right? Would be the response from a browser. And now these, Chat GPT and all of those integrations where we can talk to and get really surprising and insightful results. Yeah, man, people want to be able to have those experiences, but again, protect that endpoint.
Yeah,
SUSE AI,
yeah,
new thing that we announced at SUSECon. We're having the full release at KubeCon in November, Salt Lake.
nice.
Um, this is what we're bringing to the market: the ability to take new vector and rancher and easily deploy it, turnkey deployment, and then manage it like you do at cloud native infrastructure. These are secured and procured workloads that go through our secure bill of materials and that whole spiel. I think what's really important about that is, with visibility, stack state, and the new vector pieces, we can really give that full proof point. You want to audit your AI and infrastructure? Here it is. You can see it. You can prove that the data can't go out. Why? It's blocked at the network level because new vector's protecting that, and all of these other integrations. But yeah, I can't wait. I can't wait for Evolving and SUSE to kind of deploy some SUSE AI for our shared customers. It's an amazing opportunity, and it gives those people, even at the medium and small business, a fighting chance to leverage AI securely and then come up to speed as they're upskilling, learning some chat food, right?
Absolutely.
Or prompt engineering.
Yeah, no, and I really like what you said about the comment you made about delivering it in the cloud native kind of way, because the thing about the cloud native piece that Chat GPT illustrated for us is it's not about the technology underneath, it's not about the algorithms. We all think Chat GPT was this new thing that came out in November of 2022 or whatever it was. I mean,
Yep.
keep in mind that was version 3.5. That means that thing had been around for a long time.
Yeah.
The reason it became so popular is you could use it. I could
That's
type
it.
in a question and I could get an answer out of it. And
Mhm.
the ability to take that cloud native approach you just mentioned, that's the secret sauce, is because now I can go build this really cool response engine that knows how to go look at my data into an application, form factor that I can use inside of my business to actually get real business value.
Yeah, take a look at things like you want to get into these agentic flows, right? I described this Rube Goldberg machine of
Yeah,
complicated process to create a thing, a report.
right.
But this is what you have to do. A little ROI is going to go a long way. Figure out those processes that take a lot of people a lot of time, but they're just going through your data or going through a database and da 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 da. Even if you got a flow chart about that process, if you can describe it well, you can probably instrument that and then let AI generate the report. It's worth a shot, and
Yeah,
it's not that difficult. Things like Lang Flow, they're a visual, low code or no code. Hey, I can drop boxes. Here's where the process starts. Cool. This is where you input the question and da 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 da. Here's where it goes to the database and pulls this back, and then you know, all of those things. Really cool stuff. Agentic setup. Crew AI and some of those where you can use AI instead of going one shot. Hey, do this thing for me. Now you can say, hey, AI, split yourself into multiple personalities, 10 of them. The first one is going to be an expert copywriter that blah, 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 award-winning, da, 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 like, and then you go through that process to create a whole crew or a team of agents that work together on your ultimate question, go make me $1 billion, and watch them scurry off and make that happen. These are the really incredible things. I mean, it already can pass the bar,
Oh yeah.
So I'm just saying agentic behaviors, this is where it really changes the game, but so fascinating, dude. It could be a whole podcast on that. Oh, wait.
All right, so I got another really way out there question for you, then I'm going to ask you some boring stuff, okay?
Yeah.
All right, my way out there question is, so most generative AI has been trained on the content of the internet, right? That's the vast majority of it, along with the people who've done, internal
of data,
a corpus of data, most of which is available on the internet. Let's just put it that way.
Yes, or from people that have data collections and make them available. Yes, big bunch of data. You got it.
So is there anything left that isn't living inside of a model someplace? What is the data that hasn't fed models?
Guess what? There are shortages of data right now.
Isn't that amazing? It's true.
Yeah, that's true. There are shortages of data for these models to be trained on. So what's happening, man, if you're not subscribed, okay, first of all, everybody should be subscribing to this podcast right here, right? So, hit the buttons, do the thingy-ding, whatchamajigger, so you get notified. But here's some other things that your audience really might want to look at. There are keeping up in the world of AI. It has definitely been a paradigm shift for our, and I know that was a BS bingo word, so go ahead and check the box and yell bingo if you have to, but literal paradigm shift since 2022 of November. When we were able to start chatting with this, what has happened is people all over the world have had aha moments. Capable models and easy interfaces. Wow. Yeah. It's an amazing magic trick, right? Arthur C. Clarke, third law. Any technology significantly advanced is indistinguishable from magic. Okay, so all right, spoiler alert, everybody. If you want to pause it right now, you can, but no, not really. It's just math. This chatbot, this chat GPT, these LLMs, all of this stuff, it's just math. It's statistical probabilities. It's Euclidean geometry. It's nearest neighbor matches and all of this complex algorithms and stuff.
So what's the implication of that? So you're 100% true.
I think once we realize it's not magic and it's not infallible, don't forget the A in AI, artificial. Right. It has the tendency to, hallucinate, another term, when the thing is telling answers that have no correlation or context. They seem to have lost what you were talking about. I don't want to describe it as the Alzheimer's effect, right, in AI, but obviously it is not answering my question correctly. It's probably run out of context. Right. Here's a little hint for you. Start a new chat and then you enjoy. It's just, but those things are being solved. OpenAI has a huge context now. You can drop as much code into it and get amazing responses. But where I'm going with this is these whole integration pieces, and there's a lot to unwrap. And people, I don't know, with the data now being scarce, they're starting to generate data using AI. So now this recursive training is happening. So subscribe to some newsletters. There's one called Emergent Mind. It'll send you every morning like the top, stuff that people are blowing up on X, around a whole bunch of disciplines. It's free, but there are several of these aggregate news sources to keep ahead or keep even in lockstep with what's happening in AI. It's a full-time job. So using AI to help you make sense of what the hotness in AI is. And I know it's kind of meta, but
apparently that's one of the most asked questions in AI is AI going to take over the world? So
how do I keep up? How do I keep up? You know what? listen to podcasts like this, hang out with people that are talking about it. Remember that people were afraid of the internet at one time. Okay. And all these perspectives, they should inform us. We're going to have to be able to have good, convincing, and good, safety kind of conversations with those people that fear AI. Like any tool, chainsaw can do amazing things, right? It can also really screw up a hand if you miss. So,
Well,
with
I
great
mean,
power,
my best analogy for this is nuclear power and nuclear war. We created an amazing piece of technology, what, 70, 80 years ago now,
yeah,
that changed the world that we could use one way. We could literally make a transition that would allow us to basically stop any kind of continued carbon output into the atmosphere if we wanted to.
yeah.
Or we could blow up our, ruin our
It can
entire
go
existence.
horribly well or horribly wrong, right?
Exactly. And so, but the point is, it's entirely humans that get to make the choice. AI is a tool, just like every other tool. Humans get to make the choice in what happens and how it gets used and what it gets used for. And
That's it. But please don't lose the human aspect.
yeah,
And I do feel that is that's another reason, take the privacy side of it seriously.
yep,
If they're running out of data, they want yours.
yep.
Whoever the big they is, tinfoil hat. but starting to have like AI engines kind of do this regenerative and starting to really kind of get better at training and self-training and things like that. Safety and governance for sure. And I think, again, learning a bit about how to do some prompt engineering, that's the new Google Foo. So it's worth a rock turning over. Look up prompt engineering, simple basics 101, or a couple of YouTubes in an afternoon, and you're set. There's the CoStar framework. There's the Automat framework. It's cool when they spell words because we might remember what they are. But I have my own kind of derived, here are some best practices. We'll all get some experience on these, and models will get better at zero shot. And zero shot, another thing to describe here, zero shot is when you ask a LLM a question with very little context and expect the right answer. That's called zero shotting. And there are tables about, hey, this model is pretty good at zero shot. As things go, models will get more and more incredible, and the things that we'll see will be also incredible.
And what you're touching on too is, and you said it, as you get more experience with it, but you have to get experience with it. And I think that's the big trick, is I think many of us are reluctant to try it, either because we think it's cheating, or, we're still doing things like, make me a great cat video, or, you need to find a way to incorporate it into what you do on a day-to-day basis, whether it's in your personal life or your business life or whatever else, to get the experience you need to even understand that context is important right now. It might not be in, 2 years, but context matters a lot right now. Back to your zero shot comment. But you don't know that if you don't try stuff, if you don't go out and do the things that you know something about, and be able to evaluate the answers that you get back.
Yeah. This, again, I think internal optimizations, if we can make our businesses really a lot more efficient, free up the time for those people to create new problems to solve, this is where we're going to find the most benefit that we can bring to the marketplace, to the organization, to the world, is by creating new problems to solve. I know that sounds crazy, but if we can get really efficient and have our businesses work very, very well, we can start to turn over things. We can spend some more time digging at that, finding new ways to build new opportunities for our customers that our business can solve. So
I'm going to use that. I'm going to use that thought, building or creating new opportunities to solve, to detour into a slightly different direction.
Okay, you're segueing. Wow.
What are the problems that you are running into inside of clients that they're having the most trouble solving, that you're working with outside of AI? What are the things that you're finding that they're having the most difficulty solving? And that, because ultimately you're right. I think that I'm going to go back to AI for just a second. Getting the sort of obvious stuff out of the way allows you to start coming up with more interesting problems to solve.
Yeah.
But those interesting problems are usually the ones that are the top of mind people are trying to address right now. What are you running into?
I think well, let's talk business,
Yeah.
for what? The pandemic years. Man, I got so tired. I got so tired of hearing the macroeconomic pressures. Hey, did you hear that phrase a lot, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Macroeconomic pressures.
Yeah.
Dude, I still think, there's some macroeconomic pressures. We've got some inflation, and I'm not going to go, all political on this because, really it's cycles.
Yep.
After a period of expansion, there's a period of contraction. And after a period of contraction, there's a period of expansion. Even me, I'm only a couple of decades old. I've seen these patterns. We've seen these patterns. Um, right now, there are some pressures. There are some macroeconomic pressures on, inflation and things like that, and people are becoming cost conscious in
Okay.
ever strengthening ways. Um, these efficiencies that we talk about in AI, I think there's efficiencies people are looking out for outside of AI. Hey, if AI can help over there, great. But right now, I mean, gas is expensive, groceries are expensive, and there are some things that we want to bring efficiencies. The political winds will change, but it's how we set up our companies, because the same trade winds kind of blow on us all, right? This goes back to like Jim Rohn, and who was a mentor of Tony Robbins. If you want to go way back, geez, he is old, crazy. Trust me, even Jim Rohn had a mentor he'll talk about. But if you ever want to listen to some good stuff for your head, Jim Rohn, amazing. Anyway, the same wind is blowing on us all, so we really got to think about ways we can become efficient as businesses. I expect there's going to be, again, those expansions and contractions. If we can do a little bit more of introspection and kind of prepare, we set ourselves up in a better place. I think some of the scratches right now, the compression that businesses are realizing with all of this, even the big businesses that they've done business with in the past, people are starting to experience a bit of vendor lock-in. And we've heard that phrase forever. Hey, don't suffer from vendor lock-in. And then, you get the other side of it. Well, nobody's ever gone out of business for choosing Sears or Kmart or Cisco. I think it was Cisco at the time, and I always said, Cisco the switch people or Cisco the food people, because their stock's amazing. Cisco SY. But anyway, those things that people make business decisions on. And of course, I'm an open source dude. I work for SUSE, right? We never let that cat out of the bag, but there it is.
There it is.
Been there for a long time, because I really, I like what we're doing for the marketplace. I like what we're doing in terms of open source software and giving people a choice. So vendor lock-in, I know, virtualization. There's been some movement there.
Yep.
Other OS vendors and things like that. I see a trend towards diversification in the cloud. But the cloud is like the Roach Motel. If you remember that commercial, you can check in, but you can't check out. Egress data is always a challenge, but diversification is smart. Why? So you can play them against each other, right? And compete in that way. So I see some of those kind of decisions happening at a lot of big businesses, diversification and freeing up from vendor lock-in. There are lots of people looking at open source, and which is free software, but free like a puppy, right? Somebody's got to feed it and take it for walks and pick up the poo, right? But open source, where you're getting support and services and expertise, and that same level of indemnification that you can get from the big brands, and a commitment that this software, it's open source. You can get at the source code. It can be audited. It is audited. It's reviewed. You can see it. There are no shenanigans in there. Go ahead and look. right? A lot of benefits. People are like, well, that's pretty insecure. Somebody could just drop it. Yeah, it's really hard. While possible, it's very hard to get a vulnerability into, the Linux operating system.
Yeah.
The OS.
So let's take another
We
real
can
long
talk
tangent.
about the XV thing if
Let's
you
talk
want.
about this SSH hack for just a minute that almost happened. But I think that this is going to be a geek tangent, and if this is way outside of your realm, you might want to skip this next little bit.
Because of social engineering. Yeah.
But the interesting thing about that, the fact that somebody got in and was crafting basically a backdoor into SSH. The most interesting thing about it is they got caught
by somebody who recognized a 500 millisecond anomaly.
Exactly.
Like a human. All right, this is it. This is what's crazy, dude. Hey, that's taking half a second longer than it used to. Like, what? Like, dude, are you that aware of a half a second? Like that's something you would notice. That's the part that just amazed me the most. The rest of it, the social engineering, the long game.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Really cool. They will make movies about this.
Yes.
Buckle up. It's gonna happen. But social engineering really played out, Hey, Bob's got a cool patch. Oh yeah, you don't know Bob? Oh, Bob's been around forever. Yeah, trust me. Wait a second. Wait a second. Who are you? Oh, you don't know me? Ask Julio. Julio's been around. Julio's like, yeah, dude, I don't want to maintain this project anymore. Like you want to take it off? Sure. Like you keep bugging me. So yeah, here you go. Hey, I'm going to approve Bob's pull request. And there you go. Like that's it in the nutshell, my 30-second rendition of how that played out. But social engineering, perfect timing. And then somebody who noticed a 500 millisecond Microsoft guy.
Yep,
hey,
guy.
I'm giving you some props there, bro. So,
but I mean, but if that had happened inside of closed source code, you would have never ever known.
Nope.
Look at SolarWinds. I mean, SolarWinds was even, there's your prime example. You didn't know until it was already in your environment. There was at least, and maybe you could argue that the SSH vulnerability was pretty close to being out there, but it didn't make it.
It made it into 3 distributions that had to patch it out.
Yep.
So it did make it, but it got caught right away.
Yep.
And fixed right away.
Yep.
Because of that due diligence, because of that review, because of that eyes on. And listen, people in open source, operating systems, SUSE, Red Hat, Debian, like all, they have actual honest to goodness, like salaried employees who are part of the security teams. And they are, working with all of the hardware vendors like Intel and AMD. Like we're on the embargo list. We know when there's a big vulnerability that somebody found in research and shared it with us, private channels. They fix that stuff before they announce it generally. If people are like, why are they announcing all these CVEs? Trust me, it's been in the works for some time. It's kind of like Indiana Jones. Yeah. Hey, well, where'd the art go? Well, we have our best people working on it. Paraphrasing, who people? Our best people, right?
Yeah.
Like whenever you want. So, but just there is a lot that happens behind the scenes to correct these vulnerabilities that could be really impactful to the general populace that are leveraging Linux. So a lot of work is done. It's really managed well. These are not script kiddies writing software. These are true professionals that are developing this, sometimes sponsored by companies and sometimes on their free time, but making this operating system the best it can be. And the world's largest businesses are running on top of it. Sorry, Ballmer, or Gates. Linux isn't a fad; it's a real thing. So
it's a real thing.
Anyway, that sounds very soapboxy, but you know what?
Oh.
If we can all work together through common APIs and communications, like it's all about the application. Always has been. Servers don't just run on their own behest. Look at me, I'm a server. Who cares? If you're not serving something, you're not consumable, then you don't provide value. So yeah, make no mistake, it is all about the apps. Always has been.
Yeah.
And right back to the integrations.
Exactly.
Look at that. Full circle.
Integrations and
Right back
usability,
to
right?
how people interface with these things.
Yeah. So we've talked about AI, we've talked about open source. There's only one more thing we can talk about, and eventually we're gonna run out of time. Why are music and technology so interrelated?
Isn't it great though?
It's amazing. I mean, my undergraduate degree, I do not have a computer engineering degree. I'm admitting it right on this podcast. My undergraduate degree is in music.
So that's great. Mine too. And then from there, microelectronics,
Yeah.
engineering. But yeah, the music stuff for me is, I see this pattern repeated a lot.
Yeah.
I think I don't know, music. Let's look at it technically. Time division, pitch, frequency. That's like
exactly
all of that.
It's a time frequency graph, right? I mean, that's basically what a piece of sheet music is.
Sure. And what about the heartbeat? That's a rhythm, right? Do you think we have some sort of pulse to us? Everything we do is electrical impulses. There's a lot of music. I know there are some people out there that don't play a musical instrument, but most everyone I've met enjoys some sort of music, whether they can play it or not.
Yep.
It does. It is. Yeah, it's amazing. We could get into AI generated music and how amazing that is. But yeah, this will get us spiraled right back into AI. So I am really blessed by SUSE to be part of SUSE's culture. Quite a few years ago, I was able to start the SUSE band at SUSE, and I toured around the Twin Cities, and we did national tours. I was just digging through all of my old backstage passes, doing shows with who was it? Cinderella, David Lee Roth, Lizzie Borden, a bunch of old shows and stuff like that, touring with bands, local bands. And that was great. And then I got a friend of mine who was in another big local band, Gemini, back in the day, playing lead guitar with them. And I got him to come join up with me to do consulting, because he also had a tech background. Similar parts of the tree, just different places. He was working at Amation. Now he is working in consulting at SUSE, and we put together the SUSE band, because every year at SUSECon, they'd bring in Sammy Hagar or something like this and spend a whole bunch of money. I'm like, yo, events people, we can put on a rock show for you and you won't have to pay us. You'll just have to supply the backline. And so big stage, huge lights. We played the Zofin Palace in Prague. We played, nice. the Wild Horse Saloon in Nashville, that 4-floor mega, complex. Washington D. We have tour shorts. It's amazing that they let us go do this. And so now we create these parody music videos. So if you ever go out to YouTube, type in SUSE, SUSE parody, and kind of Weird Al, only different. We have all of these songs that we change the lyrics, and they're all geeked out with IT lyrics and, things about Kubernetes. We did Barracuda by heart. We did Kubernetes, what a blessing. So I know that there's a lot of music and technology. Why? Because I have so many colleagues that are inspired by it, that put it on to get their job done, to do the workout, and it's part of the pulse. And I think there's a natural pulse in IT as well. Constant change, a constant heartbeat of change. So
absolutely.
Wow.
Well,
I'm
not going to even open up this can of worms. Next time we talk, we've got to talk about the intersection between biology and technology, but we're not going to start right now. So okay, Jeff, thank you very much for joining me today. Appreciate you being on. And yeah, we'll be looking forward to having you on again sometime soon.
Dude, I would appreciate that. I really love, I love kind of the fact that we discovered each other after many years, from working back in the day and director services, this and that, and all of that. I mean, I just found some old emails between us, like as I was
Did you?
kind of purging some boxes over the weekend. Yeah, man. It's
Nice.
just been of course we were supposed to get back together. So it's really been nice to kind of spin up with you again. I hope things are going well for you. And I've loved working with you and Evolving this past year. It's been fantastic, dude.
Yeah, likewise. We're really looking forward to doing some fun stuff. So
All right, cool, Michael. Thanks for the opportunity, man.
that brings us to the end of another episode of the Modern Operations Podcast. A huge thanks to Jeff Price for joining me today. Always an intriguing and wide-ranging conversation with Jeff. Thank you for being with us, and I hope you'll join me again next time.